Ba't sila huminto? Bakit huminto yung US? Dati naman pinoprocess doon, nakatenga pa, 77,400. Bakit tumigil ang US? Bakit sila tumigil? Bakit bigla Pilipinas ang naisip?
Well, hindi naman naisip. Ang pagkaalam namin, they were asking other countries, and the Philippines was one of them because of the fact that we have this relationship with the United States. We're an ally, so they thought the Philippines could be a place where we could allow them to process their special immigrant visas.
The reason I ask, sir, is that UAE and Qatar are obvious processing areas because of their distance. And they're already doing this, 25,000 and 10,000. Why did they stop? Kung 50,000 na lang ang butal, kayang-kaya na nila idagdag doon. Nagkakaintindihan sila. Magkapareho sila sa kinakain, sa gawi, sa iba't ibang paninindigan at paniwala.
Well, pwede natin itanong sa kanila kung bakit biglang tinigil. Pero ang pagkaalam ko, humingi sila ng tulong sa atin kung pwede nila i-process yung kanilang mga government employee, yung nagtrabaho sa kanila dito sa Pilipinas. As one of the many countries that they're asking for this.
Thank you. Yes, I'm not unwilling to help. Like all Filipinos, we have an open arms policy to all refugees throughout the world at any time. However, it appears to me that we are an unlikely candidate simply because napakalayo po natin. Parang inilalayo natin sila lalo, samantalang meron ng existing. Unang-una, kung babagsak rin sila sa US, bakit hindi nga ituloy-tuloy na lamang yung nandyan sa Virginia? Nahinto ba, since Washington DC is clearly by Virginia, have they stopped processing people in the National Convention Center, please?
I don't think so. I think they're still processing a number of them as of now.
I see, because I understand from press releases that with the Operation Allies Refuge, Operation Allies Welcome, and the other enduring welcome efforts of the United States, the Biden administration announced that Afghan nationals in October 1 of 2022 will no longer be able to enter the U.S. under the Humanitarian Parole Authority. So tinigil sa U.S. Samantalang ito, empleyado ng U.S. Bakit tayo ang magiging sangkalan? Yun lang ang tanong ko.
Mm-hmm. Well, pwede natin itanong sa kanila kung bakit sa atin na. Pero as I said, isa tayo sa mga ibang mga bayan na humingi sila ng tulong kung pwede idaan doon bago nila dalhin sa Amerika.
Would you know if Thailand, our good neighbor and ASEAN partner, which is a treaty ally of the United States, has been requested by the United States to process Afghan employees as well?
I am not sure, Madam Chair.
I have been told that no request was ever made to Thailand. Mm-hmm. Why only the Philippines?
Well, as I said, they approached us in October and we said that we will consider it and we're going to study the matter. But we have not asked them why you picked us. The only reason they told us is because they felt that the Philippines was an ally that they could ask this particular favor, perhaps if you want to call it that, and they have brought it up to the highest levels in our government, including the president.
Okay, so if the U.S. is unable or unwilling to temporarily house their Afghan employees in U.S. soil, why don't they go to U.S. territories such as Guam, Puerto Rico, Guantanamo? Secretary Manalo, you're raising your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought I would just say a few words on this issue on the why the U.S. might have approached us. Of course, we can only surmise, but what I gather is aside from being a partner, the treaty ally, I think they also are aware of our long tradition of providing humanitarian assistance. So that's why they have approached us. On the United States is actually these are SIV applicants, and not applying for refugees. I mean, they're not refugees as such. And as we understood from the United States, their laws require that this category SIV applicants have to be processed in third countries, not in the United States. So perhaps those could be the reasons why. In fact, that's one of the reasons why they approached us on this. Now-
Pero magulo rin sa atin yan, di ba? Kasi under our immigration rules, and the BI is here to confirm, Norman, please, Afghan nationals are Category 1 nationals. They should first obtain Philippine visa before entry in Islamabad. Isn't that correct? So that puts into question their status if they remain in the Philippines as well. So that also puts into question our ability to impose our laws on all those in our territory. And we'll sacrifice all that simply because we'd like to accommodate a favor that could probably be better served elsewhere. Just a question.
That's why we have to be very clear if we were to accede to this, that our laws would be followed. And if they have a stay of 30 to 59 days, for example, in accordance with our Category A, then we would have to apply that strictly, and we would have to make that very clear to the United States that they could not stay longer than they are allowed according to Philippine law because of their specific category. And that's the point we would, if we ever get into negotiations with the U.S. formal, we would have to insist on these points.
Yes, Secretary, this is a real problem because of the change in strategy in the United States and the refusal now to extend humanitarian parole authorities. We are not certain they will actually receive their special immigrant visas. And the delay, as we know, has been tremendous and admitted by the Americans themselves. Sadly, unfortunately, the Humanitarian Parole Authority is one that myself and my family utilize, so I'm inordinately familiar with the same. It guarantees no residence, it guarantees no rights or any other abilities under that status, nor any immigrant or other privileges. So it's not something I would wish on anyone. Okay. There's a further question. You said that rigorous security vetting has already been done by the United States government. What about the Philippine government? Are we able to undertake rigorous security vetting and background checks? Will we be able to go over their employment records and all their family details from Islamabad through our very meager embassy deployment out there that covers Kabul at this point?
Madam Chair,
Secretary Teodoro, please.
if the category would be former U.S. government employees, then the job is much easier because they would have been vetted in the first place before they would have been hired. Admittedly, there are problems with their family members, if ever, who were not vetted. And that is one of the issues that we would want to go through. What kind of vetting did they go through in the first place? Which I personally, I wonder if the other agencies, what standard they will apply.
Yes, the NBI has questioned that, so have some papers from the PNP questioning our ability to actually vet the incoming Afghans.
What we are certain, Madam Chair, is once they arrive in country, then we can, of course, take precautions as to what they may do. Because, for example, like even in voice calls or whatnot, We can have them sign certain waivers, like when you answer a call center, this phone call is being recorded for your protection, or even like a company email or a Senate email for that matter. However, insofar as their backgrounds are concerned, there definitely will be some gaps. However, insofar as the NSC position is, depending on the arrangements made for their stay here, the number of those that will be agreed upon, the risk is low.
Yes,
Security risk
certainly.
is
We
low.
appreciate your anxiety and we share the NBI, the PNP, the AFP's concern, as well as the anti-terror group's concern that we simply do not have sufficient information and capability to get background checks on all of them. And even if you confine them to quarters and treat them almost as immobile prisoners, the reality is there are IT and other communications technologies available. The other consideration is NBI has mentioned the presence of sleepers among Afghan applicants as being highly probable, that the presence of SIV applicants could make the Philippines a target for Taliban and its splinter groups, and so on. Is that a reality? We so far do not recognize the Taliban government in Afghanistan, although we have had diplomatic relations with the country for a long while now. What exactly do we anticipate? NBI, perhaps, since you are very concerned about the security aspect and submitted an early paper on the same.
Yes, Madam Chair. I think the apprehension we noted is that they may have sympathizers from the southern Philippines, from our Muslim brothers. So that is a possibility, Madam Chair.
Yes, would anyone from NICA and the other security agencies would like to comment that local terrorist groups could exploit the situation and be strengthened or encouraged in some way by the presence of the Afghans here?
From NICA, Madam Chair, we also express the same anxiety because they are given also the opportunity to for this some terrorists to travel, and that is a problem of records checking, and it will pose some security concern later on.
Yes, quite apart from the background of these Afghans, will it be a source of propaganda and extremist narrative in pro-Taliban and Al-Qaeda groups, other sympathizers that we are all fully aware of that exist in our Muslim South?
Certainly, Madam Chair, this could be used as a propaganda, and it could also, since our apprehension is about the sleepers, they could always be activated, and it will have an impact as far as revival of some activities in the South.
Yes, the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos are very concerned about peace in Mindanao. Attorney Guro, you expressed some doubt about this effort.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The same sentiments we raised during the June 7, we are not particularly concerned about the infiltration or the sleepers among this coming Afghanistan, but more of being a target of an attack. As we all know, just recently, this Wednesday, an incident happened in Marawi again concerning the same group who caused the Marawi siege. So apparently they're regrouping, and they're growing in numbers because of the continuous problems in Marawi that up until now, most of these affected by the Marawi siege were not yet, they have not returned to their homeland or to their homes. So these are the concerns for the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, because if their mobility will not be limited, and even if their mobility will be limited, these people from the south or these sympathizers of the ISIS-inspired group can easily, travel to Luzon. And that is the concern actually. We agree with the Security Council that as far as the infiltration of Taliban inspired from this Afghanistan, that is very slim. But for the security concerns of those within the Philippines already, like the sympathizers of these leftist groups.
Yes, that seems very obvious, right? Yes, I think doesn't the fact that the U.S. no longer wants to house these foreigners in safe havens within territorial United States raise concerns for us? They're claiming that they're very low-risk security, that highly vetted groups will be the only ones coming, and that the SIV is assured, and yet they don't want them. Doesn't this raise concerns on the background and character of these individuals? Ayaw nga ng empleyado ng employer. Ayaw ng employer kunin yung dating empleyado. Bakit tayo ang kukuha? Tayo hindi nangangamba. Sila ayaw. Ba't ganun? Walang sasagot? Secretary Manalo, no, just playing devil's advocate and well, it seems logical. Sila yung employer. Ayaw nila dun sa mga empleyado nila. Ayaw nilang kunin. Ba't tayo kukuha? Wala naman tayong kinalaman dyan. Hindi natin kilala. Hindi natin kaano-ano. Naaawa tayo, pero maawa muna tayo sa sarili natin. Yes po.
Yes.
Ambassador Babes, Jinggoy.
Well, actually, Madam Chair, sinabi na nga ni Secretary Manalo, which I confirmed, that itong ang special immigrant visa, kailangan talaga, bago sila makapasok sa Amerika, ipoprocess sa labas. Iba yung refugee status kaysa dito sa special immigrant visa. Kasi the minute they approve that, talagang they can come to the United States, work here, live here, and this is going to be their new home. Yun ang pagkalam namin sa special immigrant visa.
Yes, tama pa. Kaya dun sa interagency meeting June 7, pati DOTR, transport, di ba, kasama. Kasama na rin DepEd. Ibig sabihin, 4 years of school. Kasi 4 years average yung application ng SIV. Mag-i-eskwela pa ba yan? Elementary at high school, di ba? Kasi pinatawag kayo. Sino-sino pa pinatawag? DICT, DOST. Lahat tinawag di ba? So, pang matagalan yan, hindi yan 2 weeks na sinasabi ipoprocess. Senator Jinggoy, nagtaas po kayo ng kamay. Nakamute po, Senator Jinggoy, nakamute ka. Ay, Senator Jinggoy, did you raise your hand? Nakamute ka pa. Ayun. Ayun, Senator Jinggoy.
Yes, Madam Chair, for those Afghan nationals who will be denied the special immigrant visa, may I know what is the plan of the United States and where will they go if their temporary visas will expire? Who will cover the expenses if they need to leave the Philippines?
Well, silang gagastos ng lahat, and if they are, as they put in that concept paper, they will repatriate them to a third country or bring them back to where they are. But they claim that the percentage of this is practically nil.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador, I was just wondering, why did they choose our country? Why not other ASEAN countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, etc., etc.? I was just curious about it.
Well, let's put it this way. Ang tingin nila, we are an ally of the United States. So tinanong nila sa atin kung we're willing to do this. And it's true, yung sinabi nga ni Senator Tolentino that we've had a history of really accepting this even from before. Alam mo, for instance, yung ginawa ni President Manuel Quezon, hanggang ngayon, dito sa Amerika, yung American Jewish community, lagi nilang sinasabi nila ang Pilipinas ay talagang nakatulong sa kanila. So they're really going out of their way rin whenever they can. Marami nagsasabi sa akin sa Israel, yung ating mga OFWs, iba yung trato sa kanila. They give them special care dahil sa ginawa ni President Quezon. So I assume that, as pointed out, even if they're not refugees, we have a reputation for being able to be open in helping people in distress.
Yes. What about the vetting process, Mr. Ambassador? Who is going to vet them?
Well, the U.S. government will vet them. Actually, they are going to be vetted first before they come to the Philippines. We are going to, as Secretary Manalo said, we're going to issue them a temporary visa to come into the Philippines for about 59 days. So there is a time limit for that visa. And once it's expired, the United States is, I assume, obligated to bring or either process it immediately or they have to leave the country.
Yes. Are we not going to be involved in the vetting process, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, our vetting process is really going to be before we issue the visa. Do not and all of this information has to be given to us, whatever information that we can get on the people that we're giving these visas.
Ambassador Romualdez, I'm sorry, Jingoy. What visa? We're giving them a visa before they come to the Philippines, Ambassador
Well,
Romualdez.
I think they're giving, from what the understanding.
Apply sila kay Ambassador sa Islamabad. Dadaan mo ng Islamabad bago pumunta sa Pilipinas. Nalito yata ako.
Well, yun ang pagkaalam ko that we have to issue them some kind of a visa to be able to stay in the Philippines habang they're being processed.
Yeah. Madam Chair?
Ibigay yung visa saan? Sa Kabul? Wala na tayong embassy sa Kabul, di ba? Pati US. You mean to say, upon arrival, may visang ibibigay ang Pilipinas?
Yeah, well, itanong natin kay Secretary Manalo kasi yun ang understanding na naririnig
Chair,
ko na sinabi
If
sa
I may
akin.
interject, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Jinggoy, sorry. Mas
Madam
lalo
Chair,
yata akong nalito. Pasensya.
Hindi ba doble-doble ang pag-issue ng visa? Mag-i-issue tayo ng visa dito sa Pilipinas, tapos mag-i-issue ng visa sa Amerika. Bakit din ng diretso sa Amerika? Bakit kailangan pa rito? Minto.
Masyal ka muna. Teka. Secretary Manalo, please. Mag-i-issue upon arrival ng visa sa Pilipinas.
Ma'am,
Pero sabi ni Ambassador Babes pagkatapos nating screen, mabibigyan natin ng visa. Upon arrival, nakapag-screen na ba tayo o umaasa lang tayo sa sinasabi ng mga Amerikano na mga okay itong mga taon to? Secretary Manalo.
thank you, Madam Chair. I think what Ambassador Romualdez meant to say is that we have to issue a visa before they arrive in the Philippines. So, bibigyan sila ng
So, saan nila makukuha yung visang yan? Dadaan muna sila sa Islamabad?
normally it would
Yun
have
ang
to be
coverage
it would have to be through Islamabad. Islamabad PE would issue the 9A visa para maka-enter.
Napakagulo naman, ang dami naman nilang papasyalan. So, iikot muna, galing Kabul, pupuntang Islamabad. Mag-a-apply sa iilang Pilipino sa embassy ron. 50,000 sila, katapat nila 3 Pilipino. Ganun ba yun?
Normally, ganun, that's what we would do now.
Tapos, sa Islamabad, pumayag na ba yung Pakistan dito sa scheme na to?
Hindi, kinukonsult pa namin ang Islamabad.
Hindi pa alam ng Pakistan. Magugulat na lang sila, dadagsa yung mga kung sino-sino ron. Okay. Tapos, liliko na ngayon yung aeroplano. Pupunta babalik sa Pinas. Ganun ba yun? Biglang landing sa Clark. Po. Electronic appearance at the counter in Islamabad. Anong level ng screening kung pindot-pindot lang? Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Before this Afghans, which are fully vetted, with assumption,
Fully vetted
By the
by
Americans.
the chief of mission
Okay.
of the U.S.
the US.
Embassy
It is still the
and
obligation.
not the Filipinos. We've never met them
No,
before.
not yet. It is
Okay.
still the Philippine obligation. It is the obligation of the Philippines to give to process them because they are Category A restricted nationals. All restricted nationals, there are other countries that are classified as such. We do a face-to-face interview, and before that, documents that we request from.
All of this is going to happen before they come to the Philippines?
That should be the case, Madam.
That should be the case. This is your and my understanding
Yes.
of what normally
Yes.
occurs, right?
But you said it correctly that there is the capacity of Islamabad PE is Philippine Embassy in Islamabad is a little bit of a challenge, and at the same time, Madam Chair, it is in the concept paper of the Americans, they prefer that these Afghans will fly directly from Kabul to Manila.
Yeah, di ba diretso
So-
Kabul dito sa New
Yeah.
Clark, pupunta sa The Crib sa New Clark City, di ba?
So, yeah.
Yun ang sinasabing plano. Wala namang binanggit na Islamabad. Higit na
wala.
walang visa
Wala.
ang pinagsasabi. At sigurado ako si Ambassador Cervantes at ang buong Pakistan government walang alam tungkol dito. Secretary Manalo, please.
Yes, ma'am. Kung ngayon, if we agreed, halimbawa, just example, and we didn't do any change in our visa procedure, talagang dadaan sa Islamabad PE. But in the event na we are now open to this idea, we may have to find additional or different kinds of processing, like maybe through electronic, etc., para lang ma-accommodate yung number. But wala pa tayo dun. I'm just saying na, but if it were held today and we agreed today, ganyan, they would have to go through Islamabad.
Dahil kasi, nagtataka ako, in the United States, they very clearly have their Afghan Allies Protection Act of 2009. The legal infrastructure is very clear-cut. It was amended twice, most recently in 2021. Kayang-kaya nila ayusin yung sa kanila. Kayang-kaya nila kunin yung mga dati nilang empleyado at sa tingin ko, talagang responsibilidad nila. If they're not willing to accommodate their own employees, nor to amend, once again, they've amended twice before, the Afghan Aliens Act, why should we be the ones to bend our immigration rules, overburden our staff in Islamabad as well as New Clark City, and impose all sorts of obligations on our neighbors? Di ko naintindihan eh. Yes, Secretary Manalo, Ambassador Babes, does this seem reasonable?
I think we will take into account your views when we consider this further. Okay.
We do not in any way attempt to influence or curtail the president's almost absolute power in forging foreign policy. However, by the rubric of simple reasonableness, this appears to be outlandish given the bending of rules required, the imposition on our already burdened resources, given our security status, which the Muslim Filipinos themselves declare is precarious at present. Once again,